I spent $227,000 on coaching and masterminds and mentorships. And in this video, I'm going to give you 7 lessons that you can take and apply to your own life to hopefully save you the time, effort, and money that I put into those situations. So we'll start with number 1. First lesson that I've learned is basically to buy back your time. Now, I got this from a guy named Ravi Abuvala that I found on YouTube. And basically the idea here is that in your personal life, whatever does not make you money should go, right? This could be any task that you could pay a quarter of whatever your hourly rate is. So let's say if you divide your annual profit by 12 months, 4 weeks, and then 40 hours per week, that would be your hourly wage. Anything that's 25% of your hourly wage, just get rid of it. So like if let's say I'm, for simple math, making $100 an hour, anything that's a $25 an hour task, like grocery shopping, mowing the lawn, cleaning your room, wiping the floors, anything like that, cooking, outsource it immediately, right? Because you're now able to recapture $75 an hour for the hours that you otherwise would have spent on those tasks. So this was lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 that I learned, same guy, Ravi, and I paid him $40K of the total that I've spent on these lessons. So the second one was eliminate, automate, delegate. And so essentially when I'm thinking through solving a problem with a system, the first question is, can I get rid of this? Okay, right? Do I even need to solve this problem, essentially? So I'll give you an example. Let's go back to the lawn mowing thing I just talked about. Do I need to mow my lawn? Can I get rid of that? Yes, I could get rid of it if I got a house that didn't have grass, right? Like if I lived in Arizona or, somewhere like that where I can just have a rock yard, right? I could do that. That would be an example of eliminating, right? If I wanted to automate, you can't really automate mowing grass, but the second way that I could think through solving this problem is like, can I automate it, right? Like, for example, if I buy a product every month from Amazon, why don't I just put it on a subscription and let it come to my door every month instead of having to think about it? How can I automate that and solve it? The third one is delegate. And this is the last one that you want to do because it's the most complex because you've got to hire, manage, and potentially fire someone. And that is within itself more complex than the other two, right? If I can just get rid of it or if I can automate it, those are preferable. Lastly, I want to delegate it if I have to, just for the sake of the fact that it's more complex, right? And so those are basically the first 2 lessons, okay? Lesson number 3, we're going to go to Cole Gordon. So I paid Cole Gordon about $103,000. And basically the biggest things that I learned from Cole, lesson number 3 is basically selling payment plans. And so I had this notion and this misnomer that if I didn't have a 100% payment plan completion rate, then we were selling it way too high of a price and all this other stuff. And so like I didn't know what I was doing. And so I basically just thought payment plans didn't make any sense. And what I actually learned is that contracted revenue is actually one of the best ways to grow your business. And by creating an accounts receivable so that you have subscriptions and stuff coming in based off of payment plans where people are able to pay you with in-house financing. So no interest, they're able to buy from you and you're able to continue to scale your business that way and help to deliver a better service, which is awesome. So that's lesson number 3, payment plans. That pretty much quadrupled my business in the matter of it was like 30 days or something, maybe 60. It was a month or 2. That was insane. That was a big realization. The other realization and lesson number 4 is that recruiting is way more volume than you actually think it is. And so I'll give you a quick story on this before we jump to the next one. And basically I was in Cabo with Cole Gordon and that mastermind group that I'm a part of there. I was talking to these 2 guys, 2 sales managers. And I was like, yeah, guys, like we just can't scale. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, let me just tell you what's wrong. And you guys tell me what I need to do. When I'm going through everything and they're like, oh my, okay, cool. This all makes sense, but what's the problem? Like, how many reps have you hired in the last month? I was like, oh, dude, we're in scale mode, man. And I didn't even know what I was saying was stupid, but I was like, we're in scale mode, man. Like we're jacking it up the recruiting. He's like, okay, how many people you got? Oh, I brought on 2 in the last month. And they were like, oh my God. They were like, dude. One of the guys says to me, he says, yeah, man, look, I started at a company like when I first got into sales where they get a $40K base, they had a fully loaded benefit package and a company car that came with it. And they hired 300 reps at the beginning of the year. And one of them was left at the end of it. And I was like, oh, I just need to do more. And then literally our business 4X after that, like literally within 90 days. Lesson number 5, I learned this from Alex Hormozi. So basically it's a concept called structural churn. For you to be able to sell higher prices to a better client and increase your lifetime value, You have to be serving a client base that can support that, right? And so I'll give you an example. Like let's say for example that I was selling software as a service, right? Let's say I did like a let's say I made like a dialer software. If I was selling to brand new sales reps and I was specifically trying to target people who were within their first 3 months of selling, right? They've got no experience and a very high likelihood of failure. My business is going to have structural churn in the sense that because of the customer I've chosen to serve, my business my business's economics is going to suffer for it. Versus, let's say that I went to call centers that had been in business for 3 years or longer and I sold the same software as a service. I might have my average client now stay for 5 years instead of, 5 weeks like I gave in the first example, essentially, right? And so this was a huge freaking unlock for us because as soon as we made these changes in our business, we saw a massive growth in terms of like ability to pay at higher price points, lifetime value increasing. And honestly, we just kind of learned this lesson somewhat recently. So we're still kind of going through the results of that, but that's been a huge game changer for us. Lesson number 6. So to increase your lifetime value, you want to basically get as much cash up front as you can possibly get. And so one of the things that I used to do was, and I still do this, is I'll jump on back end sales calls and try to renew people before their time is up. Now, a lot of the time, what happens is if you wait till the very end, it's like a cat and mouse game. You're trying to get in touch with them. They're busy, blah, blah, blah. And then it's just kind of awkward. Whereas when I was talking to Alex, he was like, he was like, when are you guys renewing? I was like, we're trying to get to them like 2 weeks before they have to renew. He's like, oh, you're way too late. If you want to increase your cash collected, jump your ROAS, and build your lifetime value, do you way crazier? He was like, you need to start upselling people like a month in max. I was like, right. And so that was a huge eye opener for me because then I was like, well, dude, I just need to start doing everything that I'm doing earlier and I'm going to get the result that I want to get sooner, which sounds like it makes sense when you say it like that, but I wasn't thinking that way. And so that leads us to lesson number 7, our last lesson here from brother Jeremy Haynes, who we pay about $60K a year to right now. Super grateful for the knowledge that he's given us. And I'll say the first thing that was a limiting belief for us in the business was that we thought that we couldn't scale the business if we didn't have the operations figured out. And so the problem is like, I want you guys to think about it like this. If I'm pushing a lawnmower that catches the grass in one of those little bags on the back end, what we were doing was we were like, yeah, man, we shouldn't mow the lawn because we don't know what we're going to do once the bag gets full. And the bag wasn't full yet, right? Like we were basically trying to solve a problem before the problem even existed. And we didn't even know how to solve the problem or that it was even going to be a problem, right? And so it was like we were basically just stuck in our own ways of just like paralysis by analysis, which again, it sounds stupid when you're saying it like this, but this is literally the same stuff that I hear in all these masterminds that people are making mistakes on. People that are doing 6 figures plus a month, and they're stuck at this stuff. And so, currently we're doing a little under 500K a month. And that was one of the biggest things that helped us grow past like 250 was stop trying to like perfect everything. And I'll give you guys a quick little bonus one before I sign off. ROAS is not the end all be all to scale. I learned this from Jeremy Haynes as well. A percentage of the total cash matters more. And so what I mean by that is, we basically were under the impression that you had to have like a 6 ROAS before you could scale, right? We're like, yeah, dude, we need to have like a 65% profit margin to scale, which like that would have been great, but it doesn't even make sense. If I get 60% of 50K, right, and I've got this great ROAS, but I'm like, scared to scale because I don't have a 10 ROAS, for example. I would rather have, instead of having a 60% margin on 50K, I'd rather have a 30% margin on $1 million, right? Because it's just a bigger piece of the pie. And so that's the final bonus that I wanted to leave you guys with, because that was something that really changed my life in terms of when to scale, when to not. And I'm not saying that, you should go off and be stupid, but by the same token, like you don't have to have a 6 ROAS plus or something to scale. So these are just the lessons that I learned in my journey. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them down in the comments. Go ahead, like and subscribe. And I'm going to keep making more videos like this to hopefully help you guys out, help you guys on this journey, and keep documenting everything as we scale our business to 8 figures a year.
And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.